How many Republican voters, like what percentage of Republican voters do you think know that Puerto Ricans are Americans? Like, first of all, can we just establish that?
You want to do no harm.
Yes.
And it's very clear that harm was done. And you know that because Republicans came out right away, flipping out about this.
Assuming the concept of the multiverse is real, and anything that can happen will happen in one of those universes. Theoretically, that means that we possibly live in a universe where Florida goes blue because of these comments. I'm not saying it's likely, but in the context of the infinite multiverse, maybe we live in that universe. I don't know.
Maybe when you present in front of thousands, at least, at Madison Square Garden, you clean up the bro talk just a little so you don't alienate women.
Clip it and ship it, archive it, because this sentence doesn't come out of my mouth very often, but Megyn Kelly is spitting right now. She's absolutely right. Friends, if you want to help with some algorithm love, click like, comment down below. I love you guys, everybody who's doing that. Appreciate it. All right, let's react to a video from the pal Pondering Politics from Josiah. Let's see what he's up to.
Liberal Fox News commentator Jessica Tarlov yet again handed out some brutal fact checks to her MAGA co-host about whether or not the left is going to riot if Donald Trump becomes president again, as well as Donald.
I had the good fortune of meeting Josiah in person a few weeks ago in Milwaukee, and let me just say, he is attractive. Okay.
Donald Trump's disastrous rally at Madison Square Garden. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we got a couple of clips to look at in this video. As you know, Jessica Tarlov is, we are the unofficial fan club of Jessica Tarlov. I think she has the hardest job in legacy media. And despite the fact that she's outnumbered.
Are there Jessica Tarlov fan cams out there? There have to be, right? There have to be. Are there any on TikTok? Are the young TikTokers praising Jessica Tarlov? Because there should be. There should be fan cam compilations. Tarlov is great. She's awesome.
Numbered 4-1. She does an impeccable, incredible job of fact checking her MAGA co-hosts. Even though outnumbered, and they heckle her and they cherry pick facts and topics, always try to put her on the back foot, and she never is. And so in this first clip, Janine Pirro, Trump supporter, says she's really worried about, if Donald Trump wins the election, oh my God, what is the left going to do? Only for Jessica Tarlov to hit her with the mother of all fact checks. And obviously, it's just insane that Janine Pirro just walked right into this, but here it is.
But what I'm concerned about in terms of stress is the left's reaction if Donald Trump gets elected. Because
they have that one image from 2016 of that one woman who became, let's face it, comically emotional when Donald Trump won, screaming into the void. And they have, some images from people at the Hillary rally crying and stuff like that. And, it was an emotional day for a lot of us, for sure. But are we just forgetting January 6th? Are we just forgetting the fact that 80% of Republicans don't believe that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? In terms of who is going to cope with this election worse, if their party loses, do we really doubt that Republicans are going to once again accuse Democrats of rigging the election?
Because they talk about how Donald Trump is a chaos candidate. The only chaos is the chaos that they create, whether it's get in their face and don't let them into a restaurant, or he's this, he's that. That's what I worry about. I would like, if Donald Trump wins, and I'm hoping he wins, I would like that people just be calm and accept it.
January 6th.
No, there's no way she said this with a straight face.
Like a word. One more thing.
But what?
So again, just all that needs to be said. Really ridiculous. I mean, if Donald Trump wins the presidency, is it possible that the left reacts badly, that there are riots? Of course. That's not outside the realm of possibility at all.
I do not think we will see mass rioting. We did not see mass rioting in 2016. There were scattered incidents of violence peppered throughout the country, but it was very mild. What we did see was a women's march which was at the time, I believe, the largest global protest in history. I think that was eclipsed by summer 2020 with the BLM stuff. But the Women's March, I believe there were 2 million people that marched in DC alone. I believe there were multiple millions marching. And what we saw was like vagina hats and, stern signs. We did not see mass rioting in 2016.
But it's interesting that Jeanine Pirro would say this and not say a word about her side, which actually did riot, which actually did commit an insurrection against the United States Capitol. It was her side that tried to overthrow the results of a free and fair election. It was her side that threatened to murder the vice president and Republican and Democratic lawmakers. So you would think that if a Trump supporting Republican...
There was a guy who mailed bombs to prominent liberal politicians and members of like the party establishment. Didn't he mail like a dozen bombs and they weren't made correctly, so they didn't go off? And Republicans talk about how, Donald Trump took a bullet for democracy or took a bullet for them. And like, we only ever see this violence directed towards Trump, forgetting Paul Pelosi and the failed attempt to bomb liberal politicians, multiple, like a dozen. We just conveniently forget about that when we're talking about political violence in this country. It's kind of insane.
And was even going to voice the hypothetical concern about a riot. She would also have the self-awareness and the wherewithal to say, also, I know that Republicans rioted before on January 6th. I hope that doesn't happen either. That would be super bad. It'd be super gross. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But no, Jeanine Pirro can't even bring herself to do that. And that's why Jessica Tarlov has to hit her with, not a hypothetical riot, an actual riot, an insurrection, January 6th, for which she is just left speechless. Jessica Tarlov also made a pretty compelling case about the comedy of the recent Trump rally at Madison Square Garden being pretty ill-timed and ill-serving of the Trump campaign as the election draws.
It was just stupid. It was really tactically stupid for them to greenlight that speech. And for every one person that's online saying like, oh, you're so triggered about a joke, there's like 25 people in this country that are like, that was disgusting. Like, what was the joke? We're talking about Americans. This is American territory. Like, how many Republican voters, like what percentage of Republican voters do you think know that Puerto Ricans are Americans? Like, first of all, can we just establish that? Watched you since the Mighty Hutch days and COD 4. Surprised to see you on Destiny's stream a while back. Definitely keep working at it. Thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate it.
But maybe if you saw
comic, are you a fan of roast? I remember you loving the Tom Brady roast.
I was about to say, I in fact thought Hinchcliffe was one of the funnier people at Tom Brady's roast. Mm-hmm. But
the question is, tactically, does it make sense to hire that comedian to speak at Madison Square Garden at a political rally? Does that make sense from a strategic perspective in the final stretch of this election, when you're trying your best to not only rally your base, but persuade the small percentage of Americans in this country that are undecided? Does that make any sense? Did you get any good? Just look at the headlines, look at the conversation over the last couple of days. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this incident is going to be the reason why Donald Trump loses the election, because I don't know. I really don't know. But there are 500,000 Puerto Ricans that live in Pennsylvania, and they're pissed. They are pissed. Many of them.
A comedy show and a closing message political rally are very different. And
Agreed.
You want to do no harm with 8 days left to go.
Yes.
And it's very clear that harm was done. And you know that because Republicans came out right away, flipping out about this.
If Republicans weren't nervous about this rally doing damage, then why did Rick Scott come out and make a statement? Why did Peter Navarro, who went to prison for Donald Trump, I mean, that guy is ride or die MAGA. Why did he come out and say that was really dumb? Why did Marco Rubio say something? Did DeSantis say anything as well? Like, they clearly think that there's a risk that joke, quote unquote, did damage. Otherwise, they wouldn't be saying anything.
Rick Scott posting Anthony D'Esposito, who is a congressman in Suffolk County, immediately said, absolutely not to this. Puerto Ricans are great. He's Puerto Rican himself. Marco Rubio came out, he's trying to defend the larger message, but he said Puerto Ricans are good people. And the Kamala Harris campaign is reporting that they haven't seen something breakthrough like this comment has yet in the campaign. They're talking about, but maybe if you...
So, again, so funny how you liked this comedian in another context. And I actually watched the Tom Brady roast as well. And I thought that Tony, I'm blanking on his last name. the comedian there that killed Tony.
Clifton, is that his name?
Is what he's Hinchcliffe, Tony Hinchcliffe.
Hinchcliffe, yeah.
I thought he was also very funny at the Tom Brady roast as well, but that was a roast. That was a Comedy Central roast of a celebrity. And this was a political rally. And again, even if you have a pretty wide sense of humor and you find these remarks funny, I think Jon Stewart said that he found much of Hinchcliffe's comments at the Madison Square Garden rally funny too. You can laugh at the jokes all you want, but there's no doubt that there are serious political consequences to the comments that Hinchcliffe made. New Republic is posting on this too, in addition to the examples that Jessica Tarloff provided of Rick Scott, of all people. Crazy Rick Scott, Republican senator, felt the need to go, oh my God, this is absolutely terrible. You know, what this guy said was super gross. It says something that a Republican.
So, okay, assuming the infinite multiverse is real, okay, assuming the concept of the multiverse is real, and anything that can happen will happen in one of those universes. Theoretically, that means that we possibly live in a universe where Florida goes blue because of these comments. I'm not saying it's likely. Maybe it's 1 in a million, but in the context of the infinite multiverse, maybe we live in that universe. I don't know. Florida? Question mark? Who knows? The Biden clip? All right, let's evaluate. Okay, Joe, please don't f this up. Don't say anything stupid. Don't go too dark, Brandon, here, please.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American.
Talk about do no harm. Now, apparently there's more context to the clip though. But that doesn't matter. That's going to be the clip that makes the rounds. Ooh. I don't love it. I don't love it. There's like a fraction of a percentage of me that respects it, but I don't love it, to be honest with you. I don't think that's a good idea to say stuff like that. Joe, like, please just button it up a little bit.
Elected official felt the need, especially again, somebody as deranged as Rick Scott, to actually get out ahead of this or to attempt to. I don't think it's working. The New Republic is reporting on this. Trump is getting slammed in key swing state over racist Puerto Rico joke. The racist joke at Donald Trump's Madison Square Garden rally is going to cost him. Donald Trump and his presidential campaign are facing a huge backlash over a comedian's racist joke about Puerto Rico at his rally at Madison Square Garden. Comedian Tony Hinchcliffe called Puerto Rico, quote, a floating island of garbage at a rally at the head of Trump's speech, forcing the campaign to go into damage control and condemn the remarks. But Trump hasn't personally commented or posted any such condemnation on his Truth Social page, and the fallout is growing. Again, whether you like the jokes or not, the political consequences are increasing. And in an election this particularly close, it may be outcome determinative. Again, it's so interesting how, going back to how they try to hit Tarlov with this. And you found him funny in one context, so did I, but that doesn't mean you find him funny at this particular political rally, because believe it or not, there are a time and place for jokes, right? So I just, it's so interesting to me that Greg Gutfeld, but of course he's trying to be a comedian, right? That's his whole shtick. Greg Gutfeld hosts Gutfeld. It's Fox News' attempt at a comedy show. He thinks that he's like this, renowned expert on comedy. Well, again, there's a time and a place. So no one's saying that you have to hate Tony Hinchcliffe to recognize that what he said at this Madison Square Garden rally was gross and that there could be a political consequence to it. Why is that so hard to grasp? Anyway, Puerto Rican voters in Pennsylvania are reportedly furious over the comments, according to Politico, a nonpartisan group representing Puerto Rico.
Biden's comments now take over the conversation, and MSG rally is now old news. Potentially, yeah. That's why what he said, I think, was not strategic. I don't think. It's possible. It's possible that that's all they're talking about on the news stations tonight, and it's possible that that's going to be the thing that makes the rounds, if it's not already making the rounds on conservative Twitter. I'm sure they're already going nuts with it right now. We'll see if it sticks. It's possible. I mean, I just don't. I don't think that was smart for, even if there's more context to it. I don't think it was smart for Biden to say that. That was not sound.
Ricans in the state plans to circulate a letter urging its members to vote against Trump, while other members of the
that's the other thing too, is like, we still have a week to go. So if anything, I think it will probably be a large part of the discourse tomorrow. I don't know if people are still going to be talking about it 2 days from now. I mean, when you think about it, it's like the basket of deplorables quote on crack. So, you know, I do think the conservatives are going to try to milk it for every ounce they can get. So they're definitely going to try to keep it in the news for the next week. But hopefully something else comes around later tonight or tomorrow. And, you know, I guess that does make somewhat of a difference, is that it didn't come from Kamala, but, you know, he's the president. And so I don't think it was smart.
Community were forwarding footage of the joke on WhatsApp and urging action. The president of the Pennsylvania chapter of the National Puerto Rico Agenda, Roberto El Lugo, told Politico that the group plans to release a letter condemning the comments and urging Puerto Ricans in the state to not vote for Trump, saying that he was really disturbed by the joke. Quote, "I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm an independent," Lugo said. But at this point, it's not about political partisan issues. It's about the respect and honor our Puerto Ricans and Latinos deserve as citizens and legal residents of this country. That's the issue. Protests are being planned for Trump's Tuesday rally in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which has one of the largest Puerto Rican populations in the state and is majority Latino city. Plus, the PBL Center, where the rally is being held, is in the middle of Allentown's Puerto Rican neighborhood. Okay, a school district in the city has even canceled classes on Tuesday. Even Pennsylvania Republicans who support Trump, like State Representative Ryan McKenzie, have come out against the joke. And it goes on like this. I mean, it's a serious problem for the Trump campaign. That they really can't afford. It's just so interesting.
And speaking of which, Megyn Kelly had some thoughts on Donald Trump's rally. She's been one of Donald Trump's strongest soldiers throughout this election cycle.
Trump was not well served by those around him last night. It wasn't a Nazi rally. All that's nonsense. But I'm telling you, even for me, and I voted for Donald Trump last week, it was too brotastic.
Oh boy. When you've lost Megyn Kelly, that's how you know it's like there's potential for real damage.
Okay? It was. You're trying to win an election in which you're hemorrhaging female voters. Maybe when you present in front of hundreds, thousands at least, at Madison Square Garden, you clean up the bro talk just a little so you don't alienate women.
That's another reason why I feel confident going into the home stretch, because Republicans are behaving like way too overconfident. If I want someone to be representing my party, to be staffing the campaign team for the party that I want to win, I want that team to have an accurate sense of the lay of the land. I want that team to have an accurate sense of the state of the race. And right now, Republicans, especially with this rally, they seem to be running a wildly premature victory lap, which makes me think like, okay, these guys don't seem very competent. And I think like, right, what we've seen in contrast from Kamala's team is a lot of competency. The speech tonight was really surgical in its strategy and who they were targeting with the language. So that's a good sign for me. I mean, the other thing too is like the ground game for the Kamala campaign in states like Georgia and Nevada is just so much more fleshed out. You know, I don't know how much ground game Trump is actually doing in Nevada. I don't know how many field offices Trump has opened in Georgia. I do know that Kamala has a team of thousands of workers all over the country that are canvassing day in and day out and phone banking every day to make sure she wins this election. Literally true.
In the middle of America, who are already on the fence about Republicans. Do they have no women advising their campaign?
No. Let me answer that question for you, Megyn. No, they don't.
Is there no actual woman sitting behind the scenes, coming up with a guest lineup and saying, let's just have a word with the guys who are going to be speaking about this isn't the bar. This isn't their living room. This is a campaign. This is politics. We're trying to get him elected.
This poor comedian, I actually kind of feel bad for him, because if Donald Trump loses, you know, a decent chunk of Republican voters are going to blame that comedian specifically. This guy, bro, this guy probably had no idea that he was going to make international news for like a 2-day media cycle. I kind of feel bad for him now.
We don't need to rally the base or guys anymore. And it's not helpful, even if we do want to rally the base or guys, to go full off color insults to different racial groups and so on. I get
clip it and ship it, archive it. Okay, because this sentence doesn't come out of my mouth very often, but Megyn Kelly is spitting right now. She's absolutely right. She's, as somebody who obviously wants Trump to win, she has a good reason to be upset at the people in decision-making positions in Trump's campaign, in Trump's orbit. The fact that they loaded that joke into a teleprompter is astonishing.
Get it. Trust me, nothing that was said offended me. I'm almost unoffendable. But I understand how this plays, especially with women. And it was an effed up choice.
She says she's unoffendable, and I just want to whisper in her ear, trans women. Just those two words, just trans women. And then just look at her facial expression. They claim to be unoffendable, and these people are offended more than any group in the country. They're constantly aggrieved because of like wokeness or whatever.
Choice. They took what was an amazing celebration of Trump. Exciting.
Apparently, Biden meant the possessive form of supporters, as in their comments are the garbage floating around. Of course, it won't be taken that way. I don't understand the What do we? I don't understand the context here. Just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you, I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or a Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. Wait, what? They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, and it's un-American. I don't know if that makes it much better. I still don't think this was a good idea for him to say that. I'm just saying.
And well-attended and hugely enthusiastic, and gave themselves a big black eye. This isn't about the insane media, which did, of course, what the insane media is going to do. This is about them giving the insane media all these headlines that undermined the main man, Donald Trump, who did exactly what he should have last night. You effed up. Hopefully you'll do better in the closing week of the campaign.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they tighten it up, if they tighten that ship.
Why would you commit this self-inflicted wound? I want Trump to lose, so I'm not personally aggrieved by this. I think it's great that he has politically undermined himself, but again,
hire Tony to do more rallies. That's where I'm at. Wait, is this a chess piece in his background? Guys, is Josiah a chess player? Am I just now finding out about this, guys?
And I'm thinking, just as a student of politics, why do this? Like, this idea that they didn't vet why wouldn't you vet the remarks, right? This person was speaking off a teleprompter. As a matter of fact, it was reported that the comedian in question was going to refer to Vice President Harris as the C word, and the Trump campaign asked him to take that out of his set. So maybe vet the rest of it, perhaps, or, and this is the alternative, maybe they did know the joke was in there and they found it funny, or they thought it was okay, or they shared the racist sentiment.
That seems like obviously to be the case. Is that that's what would worry me if I were a Republican voter who was keen on winning, is the idea that the person who loaded that joke who approved the joke and loaded it into the teleprompter was like, oh yeah, that's a good one. Like there was no thought to like, maybe that's not smart to do that. He's got a king up here. He's got a knight down here. He's got a queen over here. Is Josiah a chess player? Are these pawns over here?
Which undergirds the comment. I don't know. I just know that based on what we see, it certainly didn't help him politically. It's either, I'm not saying that this is going to cost Trump the election. I'm just saying it could damage his chances. Why would you take the risk? Doesn't make any sense. Again, this is
just like in 2016 or any close race. When you have a close race, everything matters. Everything, even the most minute thing. In 2016, you can blame Hillary's loss on literally 30 things if you wanted to. You can blame it on Jim Comey with the Comey letter. You can blame it on her not campaigning aggressively enough in the Rust Belt. You can blame it on WikiLeaks. You can blame it on Benghazi. You can blame it on Bernie or bus voters. You can blame it on the right-wing media apparatus. You can blame it on Russian hacking. You can blame it on there's you could list 30 things and say and accurately say she lost because of this thing. The basket of deplorable things. Exactly. In any race where the margins are this close, Everything matters. Everything, especially in the final 7 days of an election, especially in the closing days. The things that happen during the next 7 days, like you want the things that you want to be top of mind for voters when they're going into that ballot box or they're dropping off their ballot in a ballot box. You want them to be thinking about the things that you want them to be thinking about. You don't want it to be some runaway story that you have no control over, that a message you can't control. You want everything to be like super, like you want a risk-free final stretch of the election. What Jessica Tarlov said was accurate. Do no harm. Like whatever you do in the next 7 days, just make sure it doesn't hurt your campaign. You don't need to get up there and like wow people to some crazy. You don't need to take these bold shots and these wild swings. Just don't do any harm. Like turn out your base. Don't scare independents, moderates. And this is especially this is critically important in the final 7 days.
Student politics, it's baffling to me. But as somebody who desperately wants Donald Trump to lose, I just think this is further proof that if you let Trump and MAGA elected officials just follow their instincts, they will almost inevitably self-sabotage because they have no impulse control. And I just think this is more evidence.
That's true that a lot of these people don't have a lot of impulse control, but I think it's more relevant to point out that these people are just incompetent. It's just, it's less to do with like, oh, you have bad taste in jokes or, you have impulse problems. Like, no, you're just really incompetent. Like the lack of foresight in approving that speech is just, who are you hiring to stand? I don't understand. Like, how are you not hiring just the best people to help you right now? And I think that's just like another indication that Trump has just been such a burden for the party. He's just Trump and everybody in his orbit that are trying to be sycophantic and benefit from being in his orbit are just bringing out the worst people to staff these campaigns and to make these decisions. And it's just almost unfathomable. It's difficult to imagine